Hey guys, welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel, Sumi Does Math. This is a picture of me in my early teaching days. What do you guys think of that? Math teachers, we have a lot of problems, don't we? We're going to do two problems together today on interest. So I'm going to give you guys a second to read this. I'm not going to read it to you. You can read it out loud or read it quietly to yourself. Now these problems today are also still using that formula we looked at in last night's video. So these are still simple interest problems, and the formula that we used, do you guys remember what it was? I equals, you can just call it out to the video. It'll be like you're talking to yourself, just like I am right now recording this. I equals PRT. P stands for principal, that's this number. R stands for our interest rate, which is this number as a decimal, and T stands for time in years. So since this is already years, this will be our T, and this will be our P. And our R, this is where it gets a little tricky. These get a little bit tricky today. So 4 3/4%. We need our interest rate to be a decimal. So we have to change this rate to a decimal. And if you know what 3/4 is, 3/4 is a common fraction that you should know and memorize and know that 3/4 is equal to 0.75. But if you don't, you can always do 3 divided by 4 in your calculator and it will give you 0.75. So this is really 4.75%. So we can write 4 3/4 as 4.75%. But we still now have to change this percent to a decimal. And how do we do that? Right, we change and move that decimal point 2 places to the left. So as a rate, this would be 0.0475. So now that we have these 3 numbers, all we have to do is plug them into our formula. So in place of P, we're going to put 99,400. In place of R, we're going to put 0.0475. And in place of T, we're going to put 15. And by the way, if you didn't see in the top, this is on page 102. So if you want to take a second, if you haven't already, go to page 102 and you can fill in the blank. So the time, T is 15. The rate as a decimal, you can fill that in. There's a blank for that. And there's a box for you to put each of these numbers on page 102. And if we multiply all that out, we get $70,822.50. So they took out this much money from the bank, and they're paying almost over $70,000 in interest. So interest is a lot. When you take out loans and you have to pay it back with interest, we're paying back not only the amount you borrowed, but $70,000 on top of that just in interest. Here's another example. Again, you can take a second to read this. You can always pause it too if you if I'm going too fast, just pause it and go back. So that's the nice thing about these videos, is that you can pause it and go back. And I would write this down in the margin so that you have another example to look at. But again, all we need is our principal, our rate, which we have to change to a decimal, and our time. But this is something that we have to look at here, because if you remember, time has to be in years. So what part of a year is 9 months? Well, it's 9/12 of a year. There's 9 months out of 12. So this is 0.75. So if you're given your time in months, you can just put it over 12. and that'll tell you what fraction of a year it is. It's 3/4 of a year. So our interest is our principal times our rate times our time, 0.75. But now again, our rate is a little tricky because it's 5.5%. So you guys should know that 1/2 is the same as 0.5. So we can write 5 1/2 as 5.5. If you don't, remember that you can take 1 divided by 2 in your calculator and get 0.5. But now we still have to change this percent to a decimal. So move it 2 places, move it 2 places to the left, and put your decimal there and fill in a 0 in that empty space. So as a decimal, our rate is 0.055. Don't forget, we never, ever, in all the problems we've done this whole chapter, we never use this number followed by the percent sign in any of our calculations. You always have to change the percent to a decimal before you actually use it. So the amount of interest Miss Hanover pays on her loan is, my calculator tells me, 58.28625. But we're talking about money again. So don't forget, when we talk about money, we have to round to only 2 decimal places. So when you do that, these first 3 numbers all stay the same. Some of you keep trying to round this number up, but we only have to change or keep this number. So this number will either stay an 8 or go up to a 9, and it all depends on the number that comes right after it. So since this number is 5 or higher, then instead of leaving this an 8, we would round this up to a 9. So just again, quick review of rounding, because some of you are still having a little bit of issues with that. Remember that with money, you always cut it off at 2 decimal places. Don't leave, if your calculator gives you 3, make sure you cut it off there, okay? So here's a couple other examples of simple interest, and I want you guys to try one. And any of you ever feel like this in class? Now the nice thing about these videos is if you look away for a second, you get the ability to pause it and go back and see it again, so you don't miss anything at all if you happen to zone out for a few minutes. So that's the beauty of it. So try this check problem, and that's all we've got for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check back again tomorrow night for another awesome math video. Peace out.